Are you looking to become a better real estate investor? Then hang on, because you're about to experience another episode of the world's most popular real estate podcast, the BiggerPockets podcast. But before we get to this week's show, I wanted to invite you to become part of our community, BiggerPockets.com, the real estate investing social network. The membership is free, and you'll instantly gain access to networking opportunities, educational content, investor tools, and more. Sign up now and get a free copy of our book, The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Real Estate Investing, read by hundreds of thousands of budding entrepreneurs. Just click this link right here or just head to BiggerPockets.com. With that, let's get to the show.
This is the BiggerPockets Podcast, show 94.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
What's going on, everybody? This is Josh Dorkin, host of the BiggerPockets Podcast, here with my co-host, the guy who's been making fun of me the whole time, Mr. Brandon Turner. What's up, Brandon?
Not much. Today's show, we just got done recording it. We're doing our intro later. Today's show is probably one of the funniest ones we've ever done. Like, I was cracking up on this show. Yeah. Mostly at your expense.
Yeah, mostly because you're like a crazy, weird stalker who hangs outside people's windows. But yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, people will like that. All right. Anyway.
Yeah, weird and uncomfortable.
That's how we roll. All right. Today's show is awesome. We're going to cover a ton of stuff about a little bit about flipping, a little bit about landlording, a little bit about property management, a little bit about everything from a guy named Michael. You guys are going to love it. So before we get to that, we should do today's quick.
Oh, quick. Clearly disorganized. By the way, once again, guys, I've got Brandon in town and we're recording this show. And look, there I am. There he is. We're in the same room. It's weird. It's uncomfortable. I really don't like him that close to me. It's kind of odd and awkward. So if there's any kind of weird sound stuff, we've been trying to manage it, but apologies in advance. But yeah, so can
I do the quick tip? Are you gonna stop talking?
I just kind of wow. Woo. If you're a listener, I apologize.
Wow. That sounded so insincere. Our listeners deserve better than that. All right. Today's quick tip is, I don't know. What should our quick tip today be?
A way to be prepared, Brandon.
Here's our quick tip. Honestly, here's our quick tip. Our quick tip, if you have a quick tip, we want to start doing some more variety in them. I want you to tweet them to @BiggerPockets. So tweet your quick tip to us. That way you have to be within 100.
Well, use the hashtag quick tip.
You could do that too.
Yeah, hashtag quick tip and @mention us, BiggerPockets, and put your quick tip. Not that complicated. Do you not know how to use Twitter?
Yeah, but then you got 140 characters minus @BiggerPockets minus @quick tip. Now you got like a 12 character quick tip.
Whatever.
The quick tip is going to be like smile.
All right, way to go with the quick tip. That was awesome.
Today's quick
Nicely
tip is smile.
done.
All right, moving on.
All right, Brandon, that was fantastic. Well, before as we move forward with today's show, we've got a moment that we want to give to our sponsors, and today's sponsor is
BiggerPockets Publishing.
Oh, yeah. There we go. BiggerPockets Publishing. All right, guys. BiggerPockets Publishing is the publishing arm of BiggerPockets, and we have put out some incredible books. If you have not yet heard about these books, we definitely recommend you check them out. The book on flipping houses, the book on estimating rehab costs, and the book that's a mouthful, which I can't say. It's
the book on investing in real estate with no and low money down by yours truly.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Anyway.
And how to rent your house.
How to rent your house. Yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff. But you can check them out at biggerpockets.com/store, or for the flipping book, biggerpockets.com/flipping book. And for the no and low money down book, biggerpockets.com/no money. And those are our books. If you haven't checked them out, they're great. That said, of course, all that information is wonderful if you want to buy a book, but if you don't want to spend a dime, you can still get all that great info for free on biggerpockets.com. Anyway, that's today's, sponsor message for you.
All right. Well, let's bring in our guest today. Our guest today is Michael Siekerka. I hope I'm saying his last name right.
I think you got it.
Okay, good. Michael is, like I said, does a little landlording, little flipping, a lot of stuff, and he is a very bright and very funny guy. So I think you guys are going to love this show.
Awesome. Lot of stuff. Way to put it. Mr. Michael, welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Josh. Great to be here.
Indeed,
it is great to be here, Michael. We're excited to talk to you today. I've seen you around the site quite a bit over the the last few months we've kind of interacted
creepy.
a little bit.
A little creepy.
I don't like stalk him. I mean, I sit outside his bedroom window sometimes, but that's just because he likes to listen to my guitar, right?
Wow. Let's take this somewhere else.
Keep an eye on Brandon's cats for him from time to time.
Yes, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, how did you get involved in this crazy little thing we call real estate?
Well, I got the bug back when I was in college. It was kind of in 07, 08, back when real estate was the thing to do. And I really had an interest in it. I tried to talk my dad into buying a house for me and some buddies to rent out, something we could fix up. And no go, couldn't talk him into it. So I went out and started looking at houses on my own, and was pretty close to pulling the trigger on a couple places. Thankfully, I didn't end up purchasing anything in college, but I had that itch, and as soon as I graduated, that was my goal from day one, was to get my own property, whether it be a fix and flip or a rental or something, and just get involved. So it took about 6 months after I graduated and bought my first home, owner occupied, live in, fix and flip. I think Brandon, you mentioned that's how you got started as well. Yep. And just kind of never looked back from there.
Hey, you said thankfully when in college, you did not get to buy any property. I just want to hear about that. Why thankfully? Yeah.
So when I was in college, it was, like I mentioned before, it was right at the precipice of the real estate boom. So had I talked my dad into something, I think we'd be probably just about now crossing over into positive equity.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So I don't think he would have bet too hard on that, and probably wouldn't be too happy with me.
I thought there was more of a story there. I was looking forward to hearing some fun.
I wish there was, but no, that was it.
Oh man! All right, so you buy this first house to live in and flip. How long did it take for that to happen? And was that the intent when you purchased it?
Yeah, so I purchased the house to live in and to remodel. So I bought a big time fixer upper, and I bought it wrong. I paid way too much money for it. I was too excited to buy it. But I moved in on the day of closing. I went and ripped all the carpet out, just started, destroying the place. It took me about 3 or 4 months to get it livable. And by livable, I mean the microwave worked and the TV was hooked up.
That's all you need.
Yeah. So
you're a bachelor at the time?
Yeah, bachelor at the time. Oh yeah.
What else?
By myself.
Yeah, sleep on the floor, ramen. Yeah, it's all good.
So had a nice semi-finished basement with the tack down ceramic floors that we could just spill beer all over, and it was great. So after that first 3-month stint of really just going at it pretty much every day, once that TV went in, I kind of slowed down, and it probably took me a good 1.5 to 2 years total from when I bought it to when I was really done.
So I think it sounds like you're saying you got comfortable, right? So you were in there, your intent was to flip it. The TV came in, suddenly you could kind of sit back and enjoy where you were. You were a little too comfortable and you weren't motivated, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So for those people who are thinking about a live and flip, no carpet, mattress on the floor, don't clean the place up well until the very end, right? Live Spartan. Is that kind of the advice that you've got?
Yeah. And I'd like to say I learned from that, but I'm kind of going through another live-in flip right now, and we kind of knocked out the bedroom was a big milestone, and we kind of pushed the rest of it off just because we got that piece done. That's good enough.
My wife and I. We're doing the exact same thing right now. Yeah.
Once you get comfortable and you got to make sure that when you reach that milestone, you keep pushing on. Cause, if you settle down, even if it's for a week or say, I deserve a reward, let me take a break, you get derailed.
Yep. Yeah. I always find that, on my property, I put in, 3 months worth of work when we moved into our house. And I knew it needed a lot of work. So I bought a foreclosure and put in, $10, $15, $20,000 worth of work. And then I got 95% done, right? And then the last 5%, I probably, in all honesty, won't finish till the day I move out, right? And it's sad. Why not just finish it? And then my wife can enjoy, and we can enjoy living in a house that's done. But it's my railings, I would replace all the banisters, and then I stopped about halfway up. So if I had little kids, they'd just fall down and not make it. But the cats can jump down now, so it's all good.
Oh man, that's great.
Nice. So anyway. Well, I was going to say, so you've done these live-in flips. What is your focus? What has your focus been? I mean, do you do pretty much all strategies? What do you do?
So I started out primarily looking to rehab, to flip. That first house was where I got going. From there, I partnered up with a couple folks, friends of mine from work, on other flips. And somewhere along the way, one of my earlier properties was a fourplex, a live-in flip fourplex. And I started seeing the merit of having that cash coming in every month, as opposed to, waiting for that big payday with a fix and flip. And at some point, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, I really switched directions from trying to flip houses and to acquiring long-term buy and hold properties.
Nice. Well, I'm curious about the partnering with friends from work. That always seems like a little possibly nervous to be kind of, getting in bed with those colleagues.
Hey, Josh, you want to flip a house together?
Not a chance in hell.
Yeah, so that's a great question. There's 2 separate folks that I partnered with on different deals. I'll say I was the primary motivator behind the whole thing in both cases. I was the one with the drive and the hey, we're going to go do this. And they were like, yeah, sure, I'll tag along for this. So in my situation, both of them, I would say, were successful from a dollars standpoint, but very unsuccessful from just my personal
relationships,
well-being. Yeah, the relationships probably didn't suffer nearly as much as many partnerships do. I'm still great friends with both of those folks today, but I learned a lot of lessons. And the biggest one that I took away from it, which I employ in partnerships that I'm involved in today, is to really define what each person's role is going to be and how they're going to be compensated for their involvement and who brings what to the table.
Yeah. So what did the deal look like? I mean, what did the original partnerships look like? And clearly there was some stress that was created because of it. So it sounds like you guys kind of put it all together and you're like, hey, yeah, you give 30%, you give 30%, I'll do 30%, 33. And let's do this. And that was it, right?
Yeah, it was very unorganized. The deal looked like this. You put in half the money and do half the work, and I'll put in half the money and do half the work, and we'll split half cut the profits down the middle, and everybody's happy.
Why doesn't that work?
Well, how do you make half of a phone call? How do you
ask Brandon?
Besides a podcast on Skype, I don't think you guys meet contractors through Skype, and you really can't you can't share certain responsibilities. You really need to have one person that is in charge of certain things. One of the things I found that I'm good at is dealing with contractors and keeping them on point. And going back to these 2 partnerships, we didn't deal with any contractors. We were doing all the work ourselves. And again, with me being a little bit more experienced with the rehab work and whatnot, I was the one saying, here's how you tile, here's how you do this, and kind of teaching them along the way. And it ended up being more work for me. And I felt like I was contributing more than that 50% mark and still only getting half of that return.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been there as well. I mean, that's why typically when I do a partnership nowadays, like my favorite kind of partnership are you lend the money, I'll handle everything else. Let's just keep it that way. It's just so much more simple, right? Because it is hard. And then you get like weird things like, hey, I think I've been doing a little bit more work than you this month, or I did a little. Yeah, it's weird. Like you get a lot of awkward, discussions.
Right,
so
right.
It's just easier. It's easier one person does something, somebody else does something else. And that's easier to say, hey, you're not living up to your end of the bargain. This was your task. It's clearly written out here in our documents, and you didn't do it. And how can they argue with that? I mean, they might, but they hopefully won't.
But you should be putting time into this. I think a lot of people do what you did, Michael, unfortunately, and they rush in, they say, hey, this is my buddy, well, you're going to, we'll be 50-50 partners. They'll write the, some kind of corporate doc, but they don't really, really break down every possibility because maybe they don't have the experience to do so. And so I want to encourage people, think about your business, where it's going to be today, where it's going to be tomorrow. Sit down and really break down every possible role that you can imagine the 2 different people are going to do. If it's not a deal, not an arrangement like what Brandon does, and really write everything out. Just brain dump for a day, 2 days, a week, a month, whatever it takes until you guys have nothing left to dump, right? And then just start, pointing lines and assigning roles to people. And I think that in itself is going to help protect you, or obviously do what Brandon does and make it really simple. You give me the money, I'll do the work, done.
Yeah. One of the things I see quite a bit on BP is folks that, commenting, hey, I'm going to partner with so and so. How do I structure this? And my first thought is just kind of like, oh man, why are you asking complete strangers how to interact with somebody that you're going to be halfway, you're going to be married in bed with on this deal, right? And so since those first 2 partnerships, I have partnered up with other folks. And I'm involved in a very successful partnership right now. And what we did from the get-go is we sat down and we spent days talking about, who does what, who brings what to the table, contingency plans. What happens if you don't do what you're supposed to do? How do we handle that? And we outlined all that stuff up front, and it's, working phenomenally. We don't have those same qualms if somebody's not holding up their end of the deal, like, oh, now I got to pick up the pieces. It's, oh, here, this is outlined. If you don't do X, then, we hire somebody or you pay me more or whatever, and we get it done. So
that's terrific advice. I mean, just spending the time needed to structure that. I love that. That's great.
I said the same thing, but you didn't say you loved it when I did. What's up with that?
I don't love anything you do. I'm sorry. Me and Michael, we're BFFs, and you are on the outside.
Oh, ouch. Oh man, this is a tough one. Boxing match. Oh my. Well, Michael, let's move on to something else, because clearly, I don't know, this isn't going well for me. Let's talk about that live-in fourplex. How'd you find it? Why'd you decide to do the live-in fourplex? Give us some information here.
Sure. So that property, it was right about when I'd finished up the single family home that I was living in, bought to owner occupy. I had a friend from work, and we both agreed, hey, we want to buy something. We want to rehab it. We want to make some money off of it. We might as well live there while we're doing it. That works great. So we started looking around. We looked at single family homes all over town. And one day my real estate agent said, hey, I got this fourplex here. You guys want to take a look at it? And we're like, yeah, sure. Why not? Let's check it out. So we went and looked at it and started looking at some of the numbers and just primarily just the rental income. And we realized, we don't have to do a thing to this place. We don't have to touch it. We don't even have to move into it. We can leave 2 of the 4 apartments vacant, and it'll pay for itself. So anything we do from there is just gravy. So, we did some deliberating, talked things over, and we're like, let's go for it.
Nice. Do you remember how you financed it?
Yeah. So that was actually a challenge. I think we went to several commercial lenders initially. We went to several conventional lenders. What we ultimately ended up doing was getting a conventional loan on it. And actually, since I had not sold my primary residence yet, my partner actually got the loan on it, and I had to gift them the money for my half of the down payment to appease the bank and make that work.
Nice. Interesting. Yeah. I'm curious. You had talked about your real estate agent pitched the fourplex to you. So do you guys, you guys get lots of deals from your agent? Do you have a very proactive agent who's out there kind of finding deals? Are these on market deals, or are these kind of, hey, he knows everybody in the neighborhood, and when somebody's about to list, they hit him up and they're like, hey, John, this thing's coming on soon? Great
question. So I'd say the majority of the properties, almost all the properties that I look at, come off of the MLS. And one of a good tip for people getting started out there is to get, actively monitor the MLS. And if you see something that's appealing, jump on it. Because if it's a halfway decent deal, it's going to be gone in a couple days.
How does somebody who's not a real estate agent actively monitor the MLS? I mean, how do they do that?
So I get a daily feed from my agent. It's automated. She doesn't do a single thing. She just went in and set up the parameters. So anytime a multifamily property in the areas that I'm interested in comes on the market, if a price changes, if it comes back on the market after a failed contract, or anything happens, I get an email notifying me immediately. And so I can reach out to her and say, hey, let's go back and look at this thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I do the same thing with my agent. And if people are listening to this and they don't have that set up, just call your agent and find out if they can do that. Almost every agent can do it, and if they can't, I don't know, maybe you need
a new agent.
Find a new agent. Yeah,
it's pretty standard. It's pretty standard stuff, and yeah, I mean, it helps you be quicker. I mean, I wouldn't rely on just like Zillow or Trulia or one of them, because they're good information, but they're not complete. They're not the MLS. So
yeah, hey, and in terms of establishing that criteria. You said multifamilies and XYZ area. What is your criteria exactly? I mean, do you have anything more specific than that? I mean, are there any kind of, hey, we want stuff that has only, 3/4 showers or baths?
Yeah, I could probably talk for half an hour about what I like and don't like in properties. Some of the big things, and these don't come into the automated email list, but things that I typically look for. One is the area that does come into play in the automated list. I kind of identified early on areas that I'm comfortable investing in, comfortable traveling to, and comfortable having tenants in. And once I identified that, I kind of got a bulk list of here's all the active properties. Over the years, after owning property and looking at hundreds and hundreds of properties, I've identified some things that work for me personally. I almost never look at a building if it's not separately metered, unless it's priced significantly low enough to where I could go in and redo the entire electric and separately meter it. I tend to shy away from anything that doesn't have central HVAC. I'm not a fan at all of the window units. To me, those just kind of scream dumpy apartment complex, and my landlord doesn't care about the place. So every single one of my units has, and that's nothing against you guys if you got that. I know.
I'm just looking at Brandon's reaction.
We don't have air.
You just don't give them air conditioning, right?
We don't. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. It gets above like 75 degrees like once a year.
Yeah.
They can suffer that one day a year.
There is a bonus for having property in Podunk. They don't have to worry about air conditioning. They don't have to worry about watering the grass or the plants. I mean, it's a paradise there when it's sunny. The 3 days of the year.
4, Josh. 4.
Okay, so sorry.
Come on, calm down. Anyway. All right. So, where were we?
We were talking about his criteria. If you were paying attention, you might know that. But he's talking about the metering. It's got to have metering. He was talking about the air conditioning units and the windows, which you got kind of angry about.
Are you trying to prove something here? You were listening. All right.
So tell us more criteria. What else is interesting to you, Mike?
So I definitely most of my rental property is near college campus, near the University of Louisville. So I tend to look for things that are going to appeal to that college student, something that's easy to maintain. I don't mind carpet in my units because over the years I've spent a lot of time getting to know carpet installers and can get it pretty cheap. So
built-in kegerators.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Built-in kegerators.
Yeah. I try to screen those types of folks out, but
good idea.
But yeah, so anything that's going to hold up long term. Most of the apartments I buy, I tend to buy distressed and remodel. So I'm not too worried about what's in there today. I'm more worried about the layout, the flow. Is this something that somebody's going to live in, and is it close to the campus or close to where they want to be downtown?
Talk about layouts. What is it that catches your eye on a layout? What is something that you're going to say, no way, I got to get away from this thing?
Sure. I'll give you an example. One building that I looked at, I think it had 6 or 7 units in it. The front 6 units were awesome. I was walking through this place. I was like, man, this is looking pretty good. It was off market, so I didn't know quite what the owner was looking for at this point, but I was working with a broker who had it as a pocket listing, and we got to that 7th unit, that secret back unit, and we walked through it, and it had, I guess it was classified as a studio, but it was on 2 levels. The whole thing was probably about 10 foot by 15 foot with a staircase in there. So 2 levels.
Wow.
300 square feet. The staircase, we walked in there and the guy kind of warned me. He's like, you want to be careful. And I looked straight down, and I mean, it was almost a ladder leaning up against the wall. It was that steep. I mean, they had wood boards tacked up there. It was stairs, but it just wasn't functional. I think the 2nd floor was the bedroom, and then the 1st floor had a partial kitchen, and it may not have even had a kitchen, or it may not have had a bathroom, but I mean, it just was, it was a liability waiting to happen. So once I got to talking details with the guy, I mean, hell, I'll buy anything, if the price is right. I can tear that thing down or fix it or do something with it. But they wanted a price based on the $500 a month that was getting at that time. And to me, I would have just had to scrap the whole apartment and get rid of it. So that's the kind of thing, I try to avoid anything that is going to be hard to rent. If it's going to sit that apartment, sure, it has a tenant in it today, but when that guy leaves, how hard is it going to be? Am I going to have to wait 6, 8, 10, 12 months to find the next person that's willing to deal with those crazy steps?
Yeah. And that's smart on your behalf. Just, liability reasons, something like that sounds like it could be pretty dangerous, and B, for exactly what you said, something that you would think is going to need to be knocked out, right? You'll have to, expand the other units and use that space. Well, if they're selling based upon rents collected, you're never going to come to a price on that.
Right.
Yeah, right on. Well, have you had any other experiences with funny layouts like that?
There was one building, it was a mixed-use building. So the first floor is a restaurant, very well-known restaurant. I actually went to the restaurant probably a week or two before the showing because I knew I was going to be going to look at this place. Awesome food, awesome layout. I was like, man, this, I was getting real excited. So I go and meet the agent there. We're walking through. We walked through the restaurant, kind of looked around. It was a little funky. The storage space was a little tight. No big deal. Then we go up the second and third floor are residential units. So I think there were a total of 6 apartments in the building on top of this restaurant. So we go in the stairwell, beautiful stairwell. Most of the buildings I look at, a little caveat, are in the historic part of Louisville. So they're, 100 plus years old. So there's all kinds of cool details. And we can talk more about that later, but the inside of the hallway, just awesome. So I'm walking in and I'm just like, I'm starting to get giddy. I'm like, this is going to be great. We get up to the second floor and go into the first apartment, and it was, very disturbing. So first of all, it was a bathroom with no door, no nothing. It was just a toilet sitting, kind of in the back of the room. There was a sort of kitchen, but really it was just a mini fridge and a stove. Not really any cabinets. Very strange. A bed and a dresser. And I kind of poked my head in it, and I was like, what the hell do you even do with this? Who's going to rent this out? So we kind of looked around a little bit more, and it turned out it was the kind of place that some guy was keeping for parties and stuff on the side. It wasn't he wasn't living there.
Yeah.
So I thought that's a little interesting, but whatever, let's see these other 5 units. So we go across the hall, and I take that back. I think it was actually 8 apartments, not 6. So we go across the hall and go in the door there, and 3 of the other 3 units on that floor had all been merged into a speakeasy type bar, almost like an Elks Lodge. Had this very, very like mahogany rich, musky old man type of feel to it. And I'm walking through this and I'm like, what do you do with this? And I'm talking to the guy and I'm like, this is kind of cool. I might, come check it out on Friday night and see what's going on. But I'm not, what do I do when this guy decides he wants to hand in his keys and say, I can't do this anymore. I found a 23-year-old bimbo that's the love of my life. And, she's keeping me on the straight and narrow. So, sure, the place was bringing in, I think on that floor with those 4 units, I think the guy was paying $2,000 a month. He wanted to keep that arrangement and blah, blah, blah. But, I was looking not 6 months down the road. I was looking 6 years down the road or a couple of years down the road. What do you do when somebody, you've got a tenant who's there, who looks like he's going to be there for a while. He's paying, numbers look great, but when he's gone, there's no, it was an unlicensed bar, so to speak. I'd have to completely gut the whole floor and redo it. So I was just like, the building's great. I love it, but I'm not going to touch this.
That makes sense. Yeah. And that it's the same situation, right? You could have renovated it. You could have kicked him out and cleaned up the units and done something nice with it. That would have cost you money. They were probably not going to list this price for a discount because they had rents coming in. It was in good condition, right? And so unless you can talk them down, right? I'm assuming if you were able to get them down by X amount, it would probably be worth your while, though, right?
Right. So at some point, that deal, I'd be all over it. And one of the things that happened in this deal is the broker that had showed it to me, after he asked for feedback and kind of went back to the sellers, he said, they really want an offer. And I was like, well, I don't really think I need to make them an offer. It's going to be insulting. He's like, no, they really want to sell. They want an offer. they need to divest this property. So I was like, all right, let me crunch some numbers and figure out what it's worth to me. And I made him an offer. It was pretty close to my highest and best, and it was about half of what they had it listed for. So got a very quick no, thank you. And that was that. So, and that property's still on the market today. This was probably about a year and a half ago. I was browsing some commercial real estate the other day and saw that it's still sitting there. Same exact price.
Oh, same price.
Same exact price. Yep. So,
wow. So if anybody listening to the show wants a nice speakeasy, they can, get in touch with you. And you can
let me know. I'll point you in the right direction.
That's funny. All right. So, are you still are you working a full-time job, or is this your full-time gig, or what's your story?
I do work a full-time job. I work in insurance, so I'm an actuary for the 90% of the listeners out there who have no idea what that is. Primarily involved with looking at claim statistics and pricing insurance. So very, very unexciting. I've decided.
Yeah, I was going to say that's fascinating.
To turn myself as when people ask me what I do, I'm a real estate investor.
Nice.
That's cool.
Cool. So you got into this you didn't get into this you're looking at these multifamily properties. Is that really your bread and butter today? I mean, do you really just like focusing on those types of deals?
Yeah. So the last fix and flip I did, I probably sold about a year and a half to 2 years ago. And that really turned me off to fix and flipping and turned me on to apartments. Cause at that point I had probably about 10 to 15 units, rental units, and they were more or less covering my holding costs on this fix and flip that just did not go as planned.
What went wrong?
It really wasn't that bad of a deal and all for, compared to some of the stories I've heard. The biggest challenge that I faced on the whole property was we finished an unfinished basement and found a leak down there after the fact. So I had to rip out and refinish the basement, pay, $4 or $5 grand to have the basement sealed and get French drains put in and all that jazz. So that was a big setback. And that was, after the property had been on the market for quite some time. So I was already bleeding, and it was like somebody came and cut my knees out under me. So it was just like,
So are you totally out of the rehabbing business at this point? I mean, the flipping business.
Out of flipping, yes.
Okay.
So now primarily what I look for are distressed rental, multifamily properties that I can go in and use the same contractors, do a lot of the same things to these apartments, really spruce them up. But then go and either, depending on the financing situation, once they're completed, I get them rented out and either seek new financing or just hold on to them as is.
Are you using the same agent, or are you using multiple agents to help you find these different properties?
I primarily use one agent who I was introduced to pretty early on. She helped me buy my first house. She was recommended to me by another local investor, and over the years, I've seen hundreds of properties with her. Really got to know her, but she's been instrumental in. Anybody can kind of show you properties and say, yeah, you should buy this, or no, you shouldn't, or whatever. But she's also an investor herself. She's got several rental properties in an area that I like to invest in. So she knows contractors, she knows plumbers, she knows management companies, she knows lenders, she knows the work. So it wasn't just, I don't stick with her because she sends me that automatic listing update every day. I stick with her because, over the years, she's really helped me grow from that green-eyed guy who just wanted to go and, rip a house apart and put it back together to somebody who, really wants to build a business and contract a lot of that work out that's involved in that.
And a great agent can really mean the difference for a newer investor, can it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you turn to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing and you don't know what you're doing, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. And one of the things in my experience, so over the years, I've dealt with probably 10 different agents on my side and countless more on the other side of the table. And one of the things that I would advise folks out there is to really take what they're saying with a grain of salt and do your own research. Figure out, just because they say that blowing out this wall and throwing a deck on and putting sliders on is going to add $10,000 worth of value to the property. Why do they think that? Is there anything that backs that up? Is there a comp down the street that has that that's worth 10 grand more, and really research what they're telling you. Don't just take them at their word.
That's great advice. Great advice.
Yeah, it is. How are you financing these deals today? Like if you go and find a property today that you want to go buy, how would you put it together?
It depends on the type of deal. So I recently just finished a triplex that I remodeled top to bottom, more or less a complete gut. That property I purchased with a hard money loan, which is the same lender that I've been working with for a lot of the rehab deals that I was doing. I built a relationship with him. He doesn't typically like to loan on multifamily property, but he's worked with me enough to where he was willing to pull the trigger on some multis for me. I bought that property cheap enough, and it needed so much work that going through a conventional loan or commercial loan just wasn't going to work out. So I partnered up with him on that, or I say partnered. I took a loan from him on that, a very high interest, generous loan for him, and remodeled the whole thing top to bottom. Then once I got it completely done, rented out, tenanted, I went to a commercial lender that I also got a relationship with and said, hey, look, I got this property. It's bringing in X. It's probably worth about this. How much can you loan on it? I shopped that around to 3 or 4 local lenders that I've done loans with in the past, and built a relationship with, and kind of ended up pitting it between 2 of them and getting what I wanted out of it.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm a big fan of like the hard money to refinance later kind of strategy. I mean, it's a little bit dangerous in that. For those people who don't know what a hard money lender is, it's obviously a person who lends at high interest rates and high fees and short term, but they can do loans. They're not a bank, so they can do these loans that nobody else can do. And so, I guess, what are some of the dangers? Maybe you can talk about that. What are some of the dangers of using a hard money lender? Because I like them, but they are dangerous. So why is that?
Sure. So the biggest thing is holding costs, at least in my experience. You're borrowing a lot of money, in most cases a good deal of money, and you're paying upwards of 12%. And some I've heard people paying 16, 18, 20% for this money. So the clock's always ticking on you. You need to either, I think you guys discussed it in a previous podcast, but having 3 or as many exit strategies as you can. Just having one plan isn't really going to work for you. If something happens and you're stuck with it, you can really find yourself in trouble.
Well, so let's just say that real quick. Let's say you bought a property, this triplex, and you went to go get a loan from these people, and they said no. The bank said, no, you got too many properties, too many loans. What would you do at that point?
My plan B would probably be to sell the property, which would break my heart because it's such a great rental property. But with the amount of work that I put into it and my equity position, because I did get a hard money loan, but I also sunk a lot of my own capital into it. So I had plenty of a buffer there that if, ultimately my goal was to cash out, refinance, and recoup as much of my personal funds as possible and pay off that hard money loan. But if that didn't come to fruition, plan B was to potentially sell the property. Plan C would be to, call my dad, pull a note out of Brandon Turner's playbook and say, hey, Dad, I got this deal. I owe X on it. You want to partner on it?
We're not all that lucky.
Yeah.
Must be nice, guys. Must be nice.
Well, the nice thing is they don't need money to do that strategy. The person just needs to have good credit. So there's a lot of people out there who have good credit that you can partner with if you had to in an emergency like that.
Nice. Right. Nice. And you do cover that and we talked about that in the podcast. A couple
weeks ago, yeah.
And in your book, right?
That we did. So if people want to know more about the hard money to refinance strategy, check it out in what's my book called again? The book on investing in real estate with no and low money down, which you can get at biggerpockets.com/no money.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess I want to talk a little bit more about the hard money lenders, just in terms of the no money down. People talk about them, and I mentioned this in the book about it is possible to get a hard money lender to fund 100%, but it's very, very difficult and maybe not wise. So I guess, what does your hard money lender require? What does yours require you to put down?
So for a typical fix and flip, he's looking for 10% of the purchase price down up front, and then he'll loan up to 70% of the completed value.
Okay.
The after repair value. And he does a full as-is appraisal and a after repair value appraisal. He's got an appraiser that he works with. So this isn't like a typical bank where, you go in and say you want a loan, they approve you, and then they call some random 800 number and Joe Schmo goes and appraises it. He's got one appraiser that he's been working with for years who he trusts for valuation on property. So those are the typical numbers that he requires. Now, when I've done a couple of multifamily deals with him, and he's required more upfront on those. I think he only loaned about 80%, but he did throw in capital to help do the remodeling. So it's very appealing. For somebody like me, I may have enough money to buy the place with a normal loan, but I may not have enough capital to really clean it up and make it what I want it to be. So having somebody that can, lend that money short term and give me a bridge to get where I need to be is tremendously helpful.
And you said he threw in that extra capital. Let's not confuse people. That was not a gift.
Yeah, he just showered. He showered me with the money. He wrapped it up in a box, put a little bow on it. It was beautiful.
Nice. That's awesome. I need some of those boxes.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, so Michael, I'm just curious here. I mean, you're working a full-time job. You're a number crunching actuarial individual. What's your plan? I mean, are you trying to, do you have a goal of, hey, I want to buy X number of properties. I want to have enough property to be able to offset my actual job income and just quit my job? Are you, do you love your job and want to do that forever? And this is just another way to go vacation every, 2 weeks. I mean, what are you doing here?
That's a great question. So when I started out, my goal day one in my corporate job was to save up enough money so I could start flipping houses and get that, start making 6 figures a year, go on HGTV, have my own TV show, quit the corporate job and, just be a star. As most people that get into flipping quickly realize it's not as glorious as they make it out to be on the TV shows. You're not making as much money and you're not making it as quickly as they like to make you think. So over time, as my investing has changed and my job has changed, I've personally changed my focus. My original plan was to only be there as long as I had to be. And now my goal is to really grow both my real estate business and grow in my professional career, and just wait until, I get to that crossroads where it makes perfect sense to say, I got to get out of this job. I'm making so much money in real estate, or what am I doing messing with this real estate? I've got this great job. And at some point, it's not clear to me today what the answer is there, but I do enjoy my job. It offers me the flexibility to invest in real estate, which I also love. So I know a lot of people come on the forums and say, I can't wait to quit my day job, or I just quit my job, and everybody's excited. I really love what I do. And quite honestly, if I quit my job, which I probably could at this point pretty easily, I'd be bored to tears. I don't know what I'd do all day.
Well, and honestly, that's kind of what happened to me, right? Like I quit when I was 27 and I said, well, I don't have to work a job anymore. I got, passive income, quote unquote, right? But I was still managing my own properties, and I realized I was pretty bored and I didn't really like managing my properties that much. So I'd rather have my wife manage my properties, and I'd rather do something else fun, which is why I'm here today on the podcast. So, I think
pawn the dirty work to your wife. Nice. That's awesome.
She kind of likes doing it. I hate the phone. Like people who know me know I hate answering my phone and talking on it. So you got to do that as a property manager. Speaking of, do you manage your own properties, Michael?
I do.
Good question.
And by the way, I never get phone calls. So you must be doing something wrong.
I'm doing something wrong.
You're doing.
Really? Wait, are you kidding? You never get phone calls?
Never. I've probably gotten 2 phone calls from tenants this year.
What do they do? Text you or what?
I get a text message. I get an email. Never get a phone call.
Do you tell them to text or email you, or that's just what they do?
So I kind of set the tone when I start interacting with them from the day that they
training.
So I kind of mentally train them that here's how you communicate with me. When somebody reaches out to me through Craigslist or Postlets or Hot Pads or one of these other great sites. By the way, if you're getting into rental property, you've got to use these sites. They're free. And they just, anybody who's looking for an apartment's out there digging around on them. So take advantage of that. But when I get an email from somebody, I over the years, I've kind of learned to tweak how I handle it. But I ask for a set of things. And if the person doesn't provide me answers to these 5 questions, I don't waste my time on them.
And what are those questions?
One of them is a phone number. So if you can't give me your phone number, why am I wasting my time with you? A second thing is I just recently started doing this, but asking why the person's interested in moving. One of the things I've found is that folks will email you and say, hey, I really want to look at this apartment, and I'll get through. I'll show it. I'll get through the application process, and then find out that they're wanting to move because they can't afford their rent on their current place. That's $25 more, and it's like, well, I could have nipped that in the bud right at the beginning. Another question I ask is, when are you looking to move? I'm sure you guys have experienced this, but I don't anymore, but I used to get folks who, would email me, say, yo, this is the perfect apartment. I love it. When can I see it? And we set up a showing. They're like, oh, this is it. This is the one. They go home, they get an application, they send it to me, and they say, oh yeah, I want to start in 4 months. I'm like, well, just wasted all that time for nothing, because this is going to be gone before that. So those are some of the questions I ask, and I also ask how many people will be living in the apartment, because most of my apartments are 1 or 2 bedrooms, and I've had like groups of 3 or 4 people interested in renting out a 1-bedroom apartment, and I don't even want to waste my time going to show that, because it's not going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, that is so important to the pre-screening, because you'll drive yourself crazy if you go out and show a unit to every tenant who calls you. I mean, like, the vast majority will never qualify anyway. So the more you can do up front to disqualify them, and only show it to people who are probably going to work out. I mean, I do a lot of group showings. Like last Saturday, I had typically I don't do it anymore. My wife does, but there's this one property that I'm taking full responsibility of, because it's a long story. It's my best friend's house. Anyway, yeah. So I scheduled 6 showings, all for the exact same time, for 10 o'clock. Guess how many showed up? 1.
3?
1. 1 out of 6 showed up for their appointment. These people are all excited about it. They'd all seen the house. They'd driven by. They'd all wanted to see it. 1 out of 6. So had I made 6 appointments, I would have wasted 6 hours or 5 hours of time to do that. So that's why I always recommend, do that. Screen ahead of time, and do group showings. And
good advice.
Yeah. To that same point, I just started using a showing agent, a real estate agent who's looking for some additional work on the side and looking to get into investing. And we kind of figured out, hey, this is a great opportunity. But one of the things that she kind of suggested was doing group showings. And she really loves the additional safety. If you probably don't care so much, Brandon, because he's gonna want to mess with the crazy old cat guy. But
did you just call him a crazy cat guy? I love that. You can be my guest host anytime you want.
But yeah, so for her, I mean, she loves the added safety. If you've got 4 or 5 people showing up for a showing, Craigslist can be sketchy, and you always hear that random story of this, that, or the other happened through Craigslist. But when you know that there's going to be 5 people showing up to look at that apartment, you're not worried about that one crazy person, because nobody's.
I was going to say, and the competitive nature of people, like, I'm going to get this house before that. That lady's ugly. I'm going to get it before her. Like, they get in this like bitey little, like, angry, like, I don't like that person over there, and like they want to get the apartment above that person. They'll like talk behind their back, and like it's fun. I have a good time with that.
Do you talk with them behind the other person's back?
Of course I do. I'm like, yeah, she's terrible, and I go,
oh, stop it. Oh, stop it. Come on.
I don't do that. No, but they do. They get really bitey at each other. Like, or not at each other, but like when one goes in the room, they're just like, like those are like, I don't know. I mean, what's the worst they've ever said? Is things like, I think they've got a dog, or something like that. Like, just like dropping these little things to just, you shouldn't rent to them. You should rent to us.
Oh boy. Boy.
I got low income tenants though.
Yeah. Hey, Michael, let's get back to something real here. Not Brandon's stories that nobody cares about. Tell me about this showing agent. You talked about a showing agent.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's an agent that shows, right? But how do you work that out? I mean, they're not getting a commission, so are you paying them on a per showing basis? And how do you find somebody? I mean, this one kind of fell in your lap, obviously, but tell us more about that.
Yeah, so one of the things as I'm growing, I really wanted to get, kind of hand off some of the responsibilities that are involved with rental properties, and showing the units is a big one. This, like you mentioned, this one kind of fell in my lap. I had met with somebody who I met through BiggerPockets. Ding, ding, ding.
It's a good site. Good site.
Reach out and connect with people. But I had met with her, and really there was no intent behind the meeting other than just saying, hey, get to know each other. Here's what I'm interested in. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what you're doing, whatever. But as we got to talking, we got into a little bit more, and she, we just kind of discovered this mutual arrangement that would work great for both of us. And we didn't iron anything out at that time, but I kind of left and thought about it a little bit more, and she thought about it a little bit more. And we did come to a per showing payment arrangement. And that's also one of the things that drove me into group showings, is because, if she's only there for an hour, if I get 6 people in there or one person, it's still going to be the one showing fee. So that's kind of how our arrangement works. And it's worked great so far. No complaints there. I don't have any advice for somebody who doesn't have this arrangement and is looking to go out and find it, other than connect with people, whether it be through BiggerPockets or your local RIA meeting, and eventually you're going to come across somebody. I mean, heck, if you would have found me 5 years ago, I would have been that guy that would be like, oh, you'll let me show an apartment for you and you'll throw $20 my way? Yeah. Just tell me when and where, I'll do it. So
you only pay her $20? Wow.
I pay her $20. Yeah.
Wow.
Is that unreasonable? Or
I don't know. I'm just, it doesn't sound like a lot of money. Sounds cheap to me. I mean, you should pay her more.
Like he said, 5 years ago, I would have hands down done that for $20.
I'm just busting your chops, man. And I agree. I would have done the same thing. So
yeah.
Cool. I think it's awesome.
Sorry, I'm made you uncomfortable. No, I'm moving on. Stop it.
I'm gonna have to tell her not to listen to this. She's gonna come back to me and say, "Hey,
I want 45." Yeah.
And say, "Well, Josh has your other 25."
I got her back, and I want a commission. I want my check. Thank you very much. No. All right, Brandon. I know you want to move on to something, don't you?
Yeah. I'm gonna move on to the world famous.
It's time for the fire round.
The fire round. These questions come ripped out of the headlines of the BiggerPockets forums. Number 1, what is your best advice for finding a top-of-the-line property manager? Now, I know you manage your own properties, but this was a question, so I want to throw it at you. Do you have any good tips do you think people should on finding a property manager?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've actually screened/spoke with many property managers in the area. I've bought property that was managed by property managers. So, and I know several in the area. So one of the things I would suggest doing is talking to the person that's in charge, finding out what kind of response times they have. One of the things that I found was lacking in the people that I talked to was, they kind of prioritize, if they have 800 units they're managing, your 15 units probably, they fall somewhere in there. Sure, they're going to tell you that this is the most important property that we have, but, come armed with an example and say, hey, if I text you or call you or whatever, and I've got a tenant who has a light bulb burnt out in their kitchen, how long, what's your turnaround time on that? And they might tell you it's a day or 4 days or whatever. But when you ask for, second thing is ask for references. And if you get a reference, call that person and ask them the same question. If a light bulb's burnt out, how long does it take so-and-so management company to get over there and replace it? Because those are the little things that, they're not going to make or break your bank. You'll get paid the same amount of money every month, but the tenants they're going to see that and they're going to be like, well, this person doesn't care about the property, so now I don't really care about the property, or I don't want to stay here or whatever. So that's a big one. And then I'd also strongly recommend finding somebody who also invests in property themselves. A lot of the property management companies I know of in Louisville are, probably about 50-50. Half of them are owner investors where they're in the business, they know what they're doing, they're in the same shoes as you. And the other half are just folks that either saw an opportunity for making money in real estate without having any money, or whatever, but they don't know what it's like to be the owner, to be paying those bills, to have that troubled tenant or the eviction. So somebody that knows what you're dealing with would really make a huge difference.
That's great advice.
Yeah. I mean, And I think there's some argument from investors about all those criteria too. I mean, I know that, when I first started looking for managers, I wanted somebody who managed a lot of units, and I found that the ones who managed a lot of units were putting their units before my unit. And I even heard from tenants that I had, like, yeah, we're trying to move our friend in, and we told them we want to get them in our building, and they try and push them to other properties that turned out to be properties that they owned. And that's kind of one of the dangers that you face. And I still to this day, I don't know how to get past that, but I think it's the references and trying to find references of references, maybe, because, you're only going to give good references.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Josh. Can I revise my answer real quick?
Sure.
So my new answer is what I'm currently trying to do: build up enough property to where you can hire somebody to work for you,
yep.
And then you control, what happens if you want to fire them or if they're not doing something right.
Yeah.
They answer to you and you only.
Yeah, I think that's good advice.
Yeah.
I think it's and that comes in time. And the question is, how many doors is that? And I think that's different for everybody. But all right, so do rules like, well, the rules of thumb, like the 50% rule and the 70% rule, do those still hold true in today's market?
Well, I never really bought into any particular rules. I actually got into investing before I discovered BiggerPockets and come across some of the rules after I had already kind of developed my own rules. So
yeah,
for me, the rules that I created are specific to not to Louisville, Kentucky. They're specific to Old Louisville or the Highlands, are very market specific, and they're geared towards the property that I'm interested in. So my advice would be to kind of have an idea going in what you want to get out of it, but come up with your own criteria. And if you need to adjust that criteria as the market changes, be very careful about doing so, because I think that's a key indicator that things are either overpriced or it'd be a good time to sell. If you're not finding any deals that meet your criteria, maybe it's time to unload some properties and wait until something good comes on.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And the quote rule thing, again, those are guidelines. We didn't come up with them. They're not mine. I'm not invested. I'm not invested in them. It's, people in the community have come up with them, and generically they tend to be a fairly true for certain situations, right? I mean, it's not going to work for everybody, but I really like what you said, which is, get out there, maybe, whether it's those rules or some other rule that you might have, adjust them for what works for you in your particular market, in your particular strategy, in your particular niche. Figure it out, narrow down your criteria, and establish that. Make that your rule. And now that's what you use going forward. Every time the agent sends you something, every time the mailers go out and somebody calls you, whatever it is, you've got your rules. Don't shift them. Don't budge them. Because if you start to, but this feels really good, it's really close, but that's a really good way to get yourself in trouble, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right. Next question. What is your opinion on buying out-of-state rentals?
That's a very great question. So I recently just moved out of state. So I'm now actually a out-of-state landlord.
Interesting.
Moved down to Southwest Florida and have been down here for a couple months. My current plan is to continue purchasing property out of state now, which would be Louisville. As somebody who didn't start that way or doesn't plan at this point, eventually I plan to purchase property in other areas. But I would suggest that you really probably want to go and know the area that you're looking to buy property in. If somebody throws out a deal on the BiggerPockets marketplace saying, "Hey, I've got this 8-plex in Cleveland, Ohio. It's great cash flow. It's a cash hog," and you're looking to invest in Cleveland, Ohio, but you've never been there. How do you know that the property's in a decent area, that it's going to rent well, that it fits your criteria? So my suggestion would be to go and know where you're investing, and then after you get comfortable and know where you want to buy stuff, find folks on the ground that can be on your team and on your side, whether it's a realtor or some contractors or whatever, and make sure you're on the same page with them and really utilize them for what you're trying to do.
Nice. I was on mute. I couldn't, I was going to say, last podcast, show 93 with Eric Stark. It was similar thing. He was in Detroit and he moved to Florida as well.
Florida, yeah. Where in Florida are you?
It's great down here. I'm in the Fort Myers area.
Okay. Yeah. He was in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Can I have a barbecue at your house as well? I just asked him that if I could have one. Okay. I'm coming over
come on
both
down.
Your houses.
Come on down.
Have 2 barbecues 2 days in a row.
Well, and the interesting thing
invited.
was he also invests back at home in Detroit while he's in Florida. So it's kind of cool that you guys are both doing the similar strategy there. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So what would you do if a tenant asked for a 3-week extension on the rent?
Say no.
But, my aunt is really sick and I got to travel and I just can't do it right now.
So I was in this situation very, very early on. Thankfully, I am grateful for it, but I had that tenant that was 3 weeks late every month. And I was a huge pushover. I mean, I let them do work on a property I was remodeling. Anything you could think of that would be the wrong thing to do, I did it. And did I learn my lesson from that. And so going forward, I set the rules in stone. If somebody's late, typically now, I receive all my rent electronically. So I don't get the excuse of, oh yeah, it's in the mail or.
What do you use for that?
Great question. So I use 3 different sources. I give the tenants an option, whatever they prefer, but I use primarily Intuit Payment Networks, which charges 50 cents per transaction. And I just eat that cost. I don't charge it back to the tenants. The other options I work with are Google Wallet. I just started using that 3 or 4 months ago, and that's been working out great. And then the other one, some folks, if the tenant banks with Chase, I like to use Chase QuickPay because that also works very well.
Nice.
Okay. The last 2 options are free,
cool,
which is even better.
Definitely.
So you derailed my train of thought. I forgot where I was going with that.
Yeah, we were talking about...
What was the original question?
It was about a tenant for extension. 3-week extension, and you said, no, I don't do it. Absolutely not. So, move on to the next question.
So, but with the electronic rent, I know, the day of, is it there or not? There's no question about is it in the mail or, I forgot to stop by the office or whatever. I know either I have it or I don't.
Yeah.
Typically what I do is with all my tenants, I'll text them. I very rarely have anybody that's late, but if I do, I'll text them and say, hey, I didn't receive your rent for whatever month for October. And, they'll get back to me within a day and say, oh yeah, I forgot, or I don't get paid till Friday. And I say, all right, well, here's add the late fee on there. And I'll, if it's with Intuit Payment Networks, I'll cancel the request for that payment and I'll add the late fee on there. But that's a huge thing you got to do is stick to those late fees. Sometimes what I'll often do is I'll cater to my soft side and give somebody a break if it's their first time, and I'll charge them half the late fee. But I very rarely, if ever anymore, don't charge a late fee if I don't have that rent when it's due.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Cool. I do. We're very similar, so it's good. Great minds think alike. All right, moving on to the world famous. Famous for. These questions we ask everyone, so let's hear them from you. You listen to the podcast, you know what's coming. Number 1, what is your favorite real estate book?
Favorite real estate book? I tried to think of something that wasn't overly mentioned, but one thing I often tell folks to buy on BiggerPockets, and I have no affiliation with it, is Commercial Mortgages 101, and that's by Michael Reinhard. I kind of stumbled across that book when I was trying to refinance a 6-plex, and that was kind of when I figured out, oh crap, I can't get conventional financing on this thing. And it really just opened my mind up to the world of commercial financing, which if you want to get into buy and hold, at some point you're almost going to have to understand how that world works. So that book covers it in detail.
Nice.
Great.
Nice.
I had not heard of that one. So
Nope.
Cool.
All right. And that's not one of our books. I think Michael was just saying he mentions it to people on the site. So just to clarify. Okay, moving on. What is your favorite business book?
I tried to do the same thing and come up with something that wasn't overly mentioned, but I really got to lean on the 4-Hour Workweek. Tremendous book. It really kind of forced me to think about how to simplify things instead of overcomplicating them.
Nice. Yep. There you go. What about hobbies? What do you do for fun?
I love wakeboarding. Been into that for about 10 years now. Part of the reason why I moved down to Florida.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
I'd like to do it for more than 2 months out of the year.
Can we go wakeboarding when I come down for the
oh my God,
barbecue?
Seriously? Dude, stop.
We can do that. We can do that, yeah.
See, I just got an invite. You didn't, Josh.
Yeah.
See, that's...
I mean, Josh can get
Yeah, but here's like Michael's going to quietly send me an email. Hey, Josh, anytime you want to come down. Whereas you like kind of make it so they can't say no. And then they feel awkward about it.
I'm like Michael Quarles of barbecues.
You're the Michael Quarles of in your face, making people feel awkward.
Well, Josh, one of the things with living in Florida is you don't have to invite people to come visit you. So
we'll come anyway.
Sadly, I'm probably not going to send you that email. So if you want to come, you got to ask, man.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Or you can show up. I don't care.
I think I'll just show up.
I'm showing up.
Nice.
All right. Hobbies knows where I live, so
that's a scary thought.
Because I'm outside your window right now. All right. We got to end this thing. We're kidding. I'm losing it. All right. Last question of the famous four. What do you believe sets apart successful real estate investors from those who give up, fail, or quit, or never get started, or freak out, or pass out, or whatever?
Ooh, you got it out. Nice.
I think the biggest thing's probably persistence. I was going to say passion. You really got to love what you do, but there's plenty of successful folks that aren't really passionate about real estate. So I kind of changed my mind and went with persistence. If you're, I don't know a single real estate investor that hasn't come across a situation that was difficult or costly or they lost money on, and you got to be able to pick yourself up, dust your shoulders off, and stick with it.
Nice.
Great.
Awesome. Mike, it's been a pleasure, man. Where can people find out more about you?
Well, you can reach out to me through BiggerPockets. I'm always on there.
Always.
24/7. Yes, I don't sleep. I live, eat, and breathe BiggerPockets. So
he does. I could testify to that.
Nice. That's awesome.
You can check me out on there. I also have a website that is primarily just to showcase some of the work that I've done, and that's www.renovate. Like innovate with an R in front of it, followed by ky.com. So www.renovateky.com.
Nice.
Clever.
Awesome.
I like it.
Awesome. All right, guys. Show 94 of the BiggerPockets podcast, biggerpockets.com/show 94. You can find the show notes. Link up with Michael there. If you've got questions about the show, definitely link up with him there in the show notes. Otherwise, reach out to him on the site and at his website. Beyond that, thanks so much. We really appreciate having you come on board, and obviously we love having you as a member of the community.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being on, and Brandon, I'll see you in a couple months.
Yeah, I'd be careful. You might want to turn that
it might be sooner than that.
All right, otherwise, guys, besides the fact that my co-host is creepy, this is the BiggerPockets podcast. If you are not active on BiggerPockets, you're missing out opportunities to hang out with crazy guys like Brandon Turner and very, very nice guys like Mr. Michael S. Siekerka. I can't say it. Siekerka. Michael Siekerka. Michael, thank you again. And guys, if you're not already doing so, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, G+, all the other social networks. We post and share lots of cool stuff there. And really want to thank everybody for their time, for listening, and be active, get involved in our community, get out there, do deals, make things happen, and ask questions if you need help. I'm Josh Dorkin, signing off.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.